Many thanks for joining OBN Horn of Africa. This is our weekly program, Diplomacy, and I'm Fantam Balete hosting this program. In this edition, we will be talking about Ethiopia's economic diplomacy with my special guest, Professor Brooke Hailu, political scientist, expert in foreign policy and diplomacy, and former senior diplomat. Till the end of our program, stay with us. Professor, nice to meet you and welcome to this show.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's really a great honor to have you on our show. To just begin with, what is Ethiopia's current economic diplomacy?
Thank you. The current Ethiopian diplomatic activity is very, very broad. It has a depth. Its scope is also very, very wide. And Ethiopia began to focus and engage in economic diplomacy in the last 15 years, if not more. And economic diplomacy is one aspect of formal diplomatic activity. In the good old days, in the interaction of diplomatic activities, sovereign countries used to focus on the political aspect of diplomacy, and we call it political diplomacy. But nowadays, we live in a globalized world, and sovereign countries like Ethiopia, do not only focus on political interactions with neighboring countries, peace and conflict and other issues of political nature. In this globalized world, states focus now specifically also on economic interaction. Every country, I would say, have assets and assets. Like some are really fortunate to have minerals, oil, gas, hydropower, and energy and the like. Some don't have iron, or they might only have coal. So what my point is, states engage in interaction. They sell what they have in surplus, and they buy what they don't have from other countries. So in this economic interaction and intercourse, economic diplomacy is now the model and the format of strengthening one's country's economic well-being, as well as one's country's strategy to acquire more and more resources to sell one's product. So yes, Ethiopia, in all our missions, we have about 60 embassies and a few consul general offices spread out in the world. Among the top priorities of their job, or the job order, I would say, is to focus on economic diplomacy. So our diplomats, from the most senior to third secretary, all of them are now engaged, looking for example, market sources for, let's say, Ethiopian coffee. We derive these sources, let's say, talking with Japanese say, coffee importers, or South Korean coffee importers. We have hides and skin, for example. We have a very strong economic interaction with Italy, with France, and with the United Kingdom for gloves, for women handbags, for shoes, brand shoes and things like that. So we don't stay where we are. We always keep on using our embassies, looking for what markets, more and more opportunities where we will send our products and sell and get money, and of course use it, flow in to accelerate our economic and social development. So this I would say for a start.
Yeah, thank you very much. What key bilateral relationships support Ethiopia's economic diplomacy, and which countries are significant partners?
Very good. Ethiopia by nature has really, I would say, a good diplomatic relations with most, I would say, countries of the world. As an African nation, as a Horn country, definitely we focus on our neighboring countries. We focus as an African nation and an African people, we focus on the African continent. And we also have our geographical and geostrategic position is one leg in Africa, another leg is in the Middle East. So we have also good relations, historically, culturally, for thousands and thousands of years with Middle Eastern countries, Saudi Arabia, Gulf countries, all the way to Lebanon and all other countries. And also, for historical reasons and cultural reasons also, we have good relations with European nations, as well as to the east, Russia, it has one leg in Europe, another big leg in Asian continent. In Imperial Ethiopia, we even have the embassies. With Germany, 125, I think this year 126. With Russia, 120 something. With Americans, so many, a century, 120 actually with America. The British and the Italians. So all this tells us is that governments are there. Even the past governments have had good diplomatic relations with different countries. So our approach, the Ethiopian approach is, make friends with all and not make enemies. This emanates from our nature. Our nature is a peaceful country, a dignified country, a country with thousands of years of history. We have relations, with all walks of life. When countries are in crisis and in political crisis, Ethiopia hosts refugees. Now look, in the last 3 years, our Sudanese brothers, they are in political turmoil and civil war. And we host so many, almost close to 1 million Sudanese refugees, and also even Eritrea to the north, we have Eritrean refugees in hundreds and thousands, our Somali brothers, things like that. So this is in the nature of Ethiopia. So our relation is formal and also informal. In the case of refugees, it's informal. In the case of our relations with the Kenyan government, like the Nairobi government of President William Ruto, since their independence time, it's formal. So we have different tracks: informal, people to people, and formal relations as well with sovereign countries. And we don't choose. And we don't, isolate other countries, even with Eritrea. No matter the difficulty of the relationship, especially now with our, brothers or our neighbors to the north in Eritrea, still we have opted diplomatically and in openness to all African nations and to the whole world, we want to solve our problems peacefully. That's the nature of Ethiopian diplomacy. So that has resulted in, for Ethiopia, a favorable position. Not an aggressor, but in a very favorable position where we are looked upon as people and country who love peace. We are looked upon as peacemakers. We are trusted with peacekeeping missions. For example, look what we are doing all around in the last 20, 25, 30 years. That all is a result of what? Ethiopians' character, culture, Ethiopians' strong military, a dedicated military, a military that delivers the goods, that does not involve in domestic problems, but even helps. Let's say in the case of Amisom, ATMIS, and now USOM, building bridges, building and digging wells, building schools, repairing schools. The Somali local population, the Ethiopian army peacekeepers are well loved. So that also is, my point is, part of diplomacy. So political diplomacy and now economic diplomacy. By the same logic, in the case of economic diplomacy, we always tend to what? Look upon and accept good economic relations with all countries. If countries close their doors, like say the use of ports, in the case of say Asab and Masawa, then what can you do? But if based on our wish and our goal and objective, we were ready in the past, and now we are also ready when peace is made finally with Eritrea, for example, to use in a short while Asab and Masawa and the like. So, but now with Djibouti, look, yes, we are literally, totally, we can say dependent on Djibouti as an economic outlet, entry and exit, but still, no matter what, no matter the hiccup, there is a peace. We give priority to peace. We give priority to economic well-being of our people as well as their people. We provide water and even land and food products to Djibouti. That's also part of our economic diplomacy. And we get, at the end of the day, good benefits by being what? Good neighbors and good people. And the way and manner of we trying to solve problems peacefully, even some neighboring countries trying to put pressure on us, despite even that, we always choose as number one option peace, because we feel peace will get us more dividends. And here again was the model, economic diplomacy. We interact with Djibouti, we interact with Russia, we interact with China, we interact with other Asian countries as well as European countries, with Brazil, with Mexico, by exercising our economic diplomacy activities.
I need you to stress about this economic diplomacy, especially that Ethiopia and the neighboring countries get from the sea access and from the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam.
Yeah. Now we are putting into the picture two significant and big topics, and that's one is GERD, the Renaissance Dam, and the other is access to the sea. This, by the way, Ethiopia had exercised and had narrated this and had taken a position as one significant two pillars of our foreign policy in the utmost transparency to all neighbors, friends near and far, saying that Ethiopia needs to grow. We need to economically, socially grow. In order to do that, we need energy. What kind of energy? One is hydro energy, water energy, solar energy, thermal energy, all kinds. We are blessed with all kinds of alternative sources of energy, as we know. So now what Ethiopia is endowed and blessed by God and by nature is what? If we focus on water, we have 12 river basins in Ethiopia. And all, it seems, as a highland country, basically most of our territories, all this would outflow. The significant one is Abai, Nile, as it's called in English. So 86% of the water of the Nile flows, the Blue Nile as it's called, flows from the highlands of Ethiopia to the downstream countries, Egypt, Sudan, and Egypt. While the White Nile, 18% or about less than 20%, it flows from the Lake Victoria, Uganda, Tanzania, Kenya, and the rest, they meet in Khartoum and all the way to Cairo, Al-Kahira, and then all the way to Mediterranean. Okay, so Ethiopia's our strategy is to secure that. First, to use our water resource. When we do that, to be cognizant of not taking a negative stand or strategy against neighboring countries. Third, but we need this water to generate electricity. Based on this electrification of Ethiopia, rural areas, we'll use it for our industries. Our economy is now growing. 6.3, 6.1% is expected this year. And next year as well, 7% or something. So we are in a positive economic growth, like a train, like a locomotive. So we need what? To expand our industries, manufacturing, all sorts of medium, small, and large industries. We need electricity. So we had focused and we continue to focus on that. Access to the sea is another pillar, and that also is a must for our economic diplomacy. Now, in the case of economic diplomacy for water, for instance, we use Abai, then we generate electricity. Then what do? We sell, as part and parcel of the economic diplomacy, we sell it to our neighboring countries. We already sell it to Djibouti, as you know. We sell it already to Kenya. And with Tanzania, we have signed a deal, definitely.
What benefit does it bring, this Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, for the neighboring countries as economic development? Yeah. What should they understand, that you think?
The case of understanding, definitely they understand it. They need electricity because they don't have it. So Ethiopia supplies electricity, and they use the electricity that we supply to them to accelerate and to use it to run their industries. So this is obvious. So it's a win-win situation. Yeah, they don't have it, so we deliver that. So that for them it's a plus. For us it's a plus. We don't sell it for free. By the way, per kilowatt, when we compare the price of electricity per kilowatt, Ethiopia provides one of the cheapest in Africa, if not the world. And that itself is an advantage for Djibouti, for Sudan, for Kenya, for Tanzania, and other similar countries. There is even a plan to crisscross the Bab el-Mandeb area to Yemen in the future, of course, and also in the north, Sudan, and then to Egypt even, if Egypt wants it. So we have abundant resources. Don't forget Croatia as well. It's already 80% or something done. So we supply electricity, we generate revenue out of it. So it's a win for us. What's the win for the neighboring countries? They use this cheaply provided electricity from Ethiopia to do what? To expand their industrialization process. So that's how we need to take a look at it.
So what's your view on Egypt's complaint about this Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam?
Definitely the Egyptians, purposely they want, I think, to misunderstand Ethiopia. Purposely they say, stir the dust to cloud or to cover the real question at hand. Because the real question at hand is Ethiopia has this God-given and nature-given resource. All you want to do is to do what? Generate electricity, and we have no intention of what? Stopping the water. By the way, based on the law of nature, you cannot stop water. We are a mountain country. It will, no matter how high we build the dam, it will continue to flow. Third, there are certain numerous advantages for downstream countries like Sudan and Egypt, because by regulating the water, it means they get all year round a constant supply of water. Fourth, in the case of Sudan especially, they are every year flooded with mud and with Abai. But now, since it's now controlled, if you have observed the last 2, 3, 4 years, the rate and frequency of Khartoum and Omdurman and other towns, cities and towns in the Nile Delta of Sudan has been reduced, because it washes and kills thousands of Sudanese farmers, destroys their houses, destroys infrastructure. That is the blessing of, because don't forget, we have about 6 or 7 turbines have already begun to work in the GERD. So it means we are already generating close to 1,200 megawatts, by the way, already. Of course, September, when it's inaugurated, is going to be full-scale usage of the electricity power. Okay, what Egypt is trying to do is to stop our success, to stop this mega project, and to refuse to recognize our right to use these resources, which is impossible. Even now, you have implied it in your question. Even now, they are trying to sabotage, so to speak, this lifeline of Ethiopia, this mega project, from its success. But they wouldn't. They support opposition parties of all kinds. Way back in the 1940s and 50s, 60s, they supported scores of Eritrean separatist fronts and movements at the time. They supported OLF, the Oromo separatist movement, all the time. They supported Tigray TPLF as well. And even today, they support Fano and all other kinds of rebel groups. Don't forget that. So they don't sleep for us. But how did Ethiopia respond to this? Ethiopia said, stop this nonsense. Yes. Don't push us. If you push us militarily, we'll push back. We have the right to defend our sovereign rights. Accept our right to use it. If you approach Ethiopia in a diplomatic and civilized and cultured way, we are ready to talk to you anytime.
Thank you. Coming to the benefits behind Ethiopia's access to seaports.
Yeah.
What is your take on that?
Okay. Now the question is on access to the sea. Ethiopia has every right to have access to the sea. International law supports us. The United Nations Convention of the Law of the Seas, Article 69, 124, 25, 26, all the way 28, they support landlocked countries like Ethiopia by international law should have the right to have unrestricted access to the sea. There are scores of landlocked countries in Africa as well as throughout the world. And Ethiopia happens to be one of those huge countries, landlocked countries, plus the most populous landlocked country in the world, while Kazakhstan is the largest in terms of area, as far as I know. So what does this tell us? That Ethiopia is pushing this agenda, this narrative, without fear and with determination, especially the last 3 years. Because The policy that the previous Ethiopian government had followed, the PRDF government, was Ethiopia had lost access to the sea with the separation of Eritrea. Just sort of forget it. When the Eritreans want it, they allow you. When they don't want it, like since 1997, they said no way, so they shut the door, so to speak. And since then, we have no access. This is ridiculous. This is inhuman. And this is not expectant of a good, friendly neighboring country. Like good neighbors, they should have felt the pain of Ethiopia. What the government policy led by the Prime Minister, Dr. Abiy, we have in the parliament as well, the clear policy is we cannot keep quiet, first. We have a problem to solve. What's the problem? Access to the sea. Denial of access to the sea makes a country paralyzed. It makes a country isolated. Morally, psychologically, it puts pressure on the people, the psyche of the people, as well as the government and the system. And historically as well, Ethiopia used to be a huge country with thousands of kilometers of the Red Sea coast, even all the way to Bab el-Mandeb and the Gulf of Aden, Ziela, for example, in the good old days, Adulis, all the way to Port Sudan, when that time when it was all Ethiopia. And then on the Yemeni side across the Red Sea, it was Yemen, it was Ethiopia. You could still find Ethiopian GERD writings in Yemen, in the certain, all the way to the Omani border, Yemeni-Omani border. You find evidence, archaeological, all kinds of evidences of the presence of Ethiopia. So history is history. It's gone. The past is the past. Nobody wishes to go back there. And also it is what? Impossible. So the Ethiopia that we know is a very reduced country, today's Ethiopia. And then we lost Eritrea, of course, after it was federated. And then we lost it in 1991, de facto, and then de jure. Eritrea became a sovereign country. So Ethiopia was dependent on Djibouti and Asab and Misawa. But because of the Badem issue and the like, Eritrea closed the border, and that was the situation. So we are now dependent on Djibouti, literally on Djibouti. So now what Ethiopia is asking, not demanding, but asking politely, in a very respectful way, is that the whole world and neighboring countries to accept Ethiopia's reality. The problem has to be solved. If we let go and pretend and sleep on it and pretend, oh, this problem will go away, it wouldn't go away. Now, the Ethiopian economy is growing, we need more and more ports. We need a port that we say is our own. Based on what? Lease, peacefully based on contract or lease or long-term, or swapping of territories with a friendly country which will provide us with let's say, access to the sea, like what we signed with the Somaliland government of Hargeisa in January 1, 2024. That was achieved. So now what Ethiopia is ready to talk to every country. We have Lamu to the south. It is being developed by the Kenyan government. We have with Djibouti, there is a port expansion, but what Ethiopia wants is its own access to the sea. So how did some countries react to it? Not in a friendly way. They reacted by trying to aggravate the whole situation, making it worse, like ganging up against Ethiopia, as if Ethiopia is an invader. Ethiopia wants to dominate the whole area. Ethiopia wants to squash each and every neighboring country. That Ethiopia is as if Ethiopia is an expansionist state and the like. So this is this narrative that is being thrown around by our not friendly regimes in our neighborhood. So still Ethiopia is asking friendly countries to do that. Now, to the future. Ethiopia is saying if we don't solve it now, it's going to explode anytime in the future. Why would it explode? Look at the population base of Ethiopia. Every year, 2.8, 2.7, 2.5 million Ethiopians are born. Now we are 130, next year 133. then 2 years from now 137, 138, and by 18 years, believe it, by 18 years from now, we're going to be 150. We're going to hit 150 million. The population of Ethiopia is more than the population of all the neighboring countries. The economy of Ethiopia is more than the economy of all the neighboring countries. So Ethiopia, whether unfriendly countries accept it or not, it's an elephant. It's a big, big elephant in the room that they cannot just close their eyes and pretend as if Ethiopia is not existing. We exist, and we are growing. Militarily strong, determined people. We want to come out of the poverty. We are succeeding. We are working hard, and our diplomatic visibility is increasing. Our political and economic diplomacy is working. We are having more and more partners on board. America has even accepted Ethiopia's plea of access to the sea. The French recently government had accepted it. The Russian Federation have accepted it. And the African brothers have accepted and said, yes, Ethiopians are correct. They need what? Access to the sea. Accept this reality. So there is a pressure going on, exerted in the neighborhood, in those traveling countries that don't see eye to eye with Ethiopia. I'm not saying the people are friendly, but the governments that are in the neighborhood. So Ethiopia is saying that if we don't solve it now, it's going to explode 10 years, 20 years down the line. So better to do it now when it is what? Less costly, less damaging. And of course, any dedicated government, what it wants to do is to solve problems and not to leave it for next generation governments to solve it. Do I make sense? That's the strategy of Ethiopia, and it's working. It's working. And if you ask me, what do you think, Brooke? I say, I don't know when, but we will have our own access to the sea, not in a military aggressive way, but in a friendly way. And that is the only solution to create a peaceful peace for Ethiopia, as well as peace for all our neighbors. And by the way, we live in a globalized world. The world is getting together. And some countries in our neighborhood are so like a hermit kingdom, like they living in a monastery. They want to isolate themselves. They can't. Already their people are coming to us. The economy of Ethiopia is like a magnet. It draws. The economy of Eritrea and Djibouti, look at Djibouti. They are literally part of Ethiopia, one could say. Yes, territorially they exist independently, but just like America, how it draws the Mexicans and El Salvador and Guatemala and Honduras and all Costa Rica, all these economies are pulled towards America. These countries cannot stop it. So this neighboring horn country, they cannot stop the economic progress of Ethiopia, and they cannot stop the might of Ethiopia, and I don't think they can withstand the economic strength of Ethiopia, because it's like an orbit, it's drawing them in. So I think better to live with Ethiopia, and Ethiopia wants to live with them. Even a strong Ethiopia is what? Is a firewall for these smaller neighboring countries from aggression from outside. Ethiopia is so dedicated. Look at the peace missions, as I said earlier. Ethiopia is so dedicated. When our friends and neighbors need help, Ethiopia is the first to be there, always. Kenya, Somalia, 16, 17 years, we are there already. And no country, our sons have died for Somalia and still dying. They are dedicated. And no other country had paid the sacrifice like we have paid the sacrifice. So all this tells you is that I think the destiny of these neighboring countries, smaller countries, would be much brighter if they come on board. I'm not saying let Ethiopia dominate. I'm not saying that. No, Ethiopia is a big country, and you accept the fate of your others. Fairness is our culture. It's in our blood. That's also the character of Ethiopianness. And by the way, protection also they can get from Ethiopia from any known and unknown aggression from outside. So I think at the end of the day, really we'll have our own access to the sea. and it's a matter of time, I would say. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Professor Baruch Hailu, political scientist, expert in foreign policy and diplomacy, and former senior diplomat. Thank you very much for your precious time and deep insights.
Thank you. The pleasure is mine. Appreciate it. Thank
You're most welcome. Dear viewers, you have been watching OBN Horn of Africa weekly program Diplomacy. Thank you very much for watching this program and stay safe.